Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another thrilling instalment of the Perfect Balance Clinic Power Hour. And as you saw from the little intro there, we are now open and cooking on gas. So welcome back, patients, and welcome back to Mike Dilk. So how are you, Mike Dilk?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. Nice to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Sorry.
People can see me now. Scary. I'm used to just doing a podcast where people only hear me.
Excellent. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And I know we've got some very interesting questions this evening around desk plate setup and the optimal ergonomics to get people sitting more comfortably, because clearly everyone's working at home still, aren't they? So it's a big problem. Have you seen many people? Have you seen a dramatic change in the number of people working at home, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, it's enormous, really. Big offices have really not yet opened in London or other towns. So people with office jobs, a lot of people with office jobs are working at home. So this is my home office here. I've always worked at home, but my wife, who usually went into London, has been working at home every day for the lockdown. And yeah, that's just the way it is at the minute.
Yeah, excellent. Well, what do you normally do when coronavirus isn't attacking us all? How's your work normally work, and how would your days be spent?
Okay, so my business is, there's a couple of things in my business. I import ergonomic furniture, and to do that, there's a fair bit of office time, but I'm also out and about. So I travel on public transport or I drive. I'm out visiting customers quite a lot. So I do that a bit. So it's a bit of office work, a bit of out and about. And the other thing that I do is I have a podcast. And again, that is sometimes organized at home where I'm sitting on my desk doing editing. That's pretty static. That can take quite a long time.
Yeah.
Or I'm out interviewing people. So it's a mixture of working in the office, and this is my home office. So this is where I am even in non-COVID times. Or I'm out and about visiting customers and people to interview.
Fantastic, good. So I've often seen you walking down the street on the way to the station carrying one of your famous chairs. But where are you heading to when you go onto the train?
So I've got a lot of customers in London. So I will either be heading for a shop, because I supply ergonomic equipment to shops, or I'll be going to see an individual that wants to try one out in their office, because I'm very keen on people trying out these things before they buy them.
Yeah,
that was in non-COVID times. It's a bit harder to do that in COVID times, but I can often find ways to do that and make that happen. And I have been taking chairs to people's homes for them to try out. So that's why you see me with a chair over one shoulder.
Yeah.
And also it's quite useful on the train. It's in Albany, going into London. You never get a seat on the train. So if you've got your own seat, at least I can sit down.
You stole my joke. You stole the punchline, Mike. Excellent. Good. So let's jump to it, Mike. So we've got a very interesting question here. So what are the main issues that you see people suffering with in a sitting position? And what do you think the main effect of poor sitting is for people's bodies?
Okay, so I mean that's my business. I deal all the time with people that are having trouble sitting down, and the first thing they normally say to me is, I'm in bloody agony. I can't bear doing my job any longer. So people that have back pain, it's not always through sitting down too much, but that is definitely a contributory factor. Their life is just turned upside down, because very often they can't work. Their life is just miserable. So that's kind of the overall thing. We're getting to some sort of details there of what it actually does to you if you spend too much time sitting down or sitting poorly. You will end up sort of being hunched. You'll have a posture that just looks like you're old before your time, which is not a good look for anyone. You will likely be in some significant pain, and you're just going to feel stiff and uncomfortable. the whole time, and it's if you can avoid that, it's a good thing to avoid, I'd suggest. So I'm sure you see people every day that kind of come into your clinic, they kind of almost hobble in, and you can tell if there's someone that sits at a desk all day from just looking at them, probably.
You can, yeah. So we see a lot of people in clinic that have a range of problems, really. Everything from lower back pain to hip pain, that's probably the more common. And then we see a lot of people with headaches and migraines, which can often be related to poor posture. And that can cause all sorts of kind of energy to be able to do stuff on a regular basis. So it's it's quite rewarding being able to identify that someone's not sitting correctly and then help them optimize their workplace, but also look at other strategies that might help them improve as well. But also just advising them on very simple stuff that they can do on a regular basis. So, Mike, I'm particularly interested in what are the old school solutions to change people's posture and sitting habits?
Okay, well, so this is an old school, I suppose, but I still say it to people, which is kind of odd for someone who's interested in chairs. I often say, look, if you don't need to sit down all day, or don't do it, or if you can avoid sitting down, do your best to avoid sitting down all day, because we are not designed to sit down all day. So just don't do it if you can possibly avoid it. But other issues, I've seen people quite often say to me, but I've got this kind of lumbar cushion, this lumbar support. Surely I must be okay with using something like that. You see the sort of things that you strap onto the back of an office chair, and it's like an extra cushion. And what that'll do, that will support your back, and that can feel more comfortable in the short term. But very often it's just very static. A lot of the problem is just being completely still for hours on end. And if you've got a cushion at your back, you're less likely to move, and that cushion is going to be taking some of the weight. And as human beings, we're designed to be able to support our weight, our own. That's what we do. We've done it for years. So all of a sudden, it's been in the last, I guess, 80 or 100 years, when people have been starting to sit a lot more, this idea that we don't need to move or take our own weight, it's kind of not so much true. So I've noticed a lot. People have these various different cushions. I quite often have this discussion with people when they're talking about using backrests and cushions. I say, you can't do this at the minute because you're not really sitting in an office with all your colleagues. I say, look around at your colleagues, and if you do that, what you often notice is that they're all hunched like this, getting as close as they can to their computer screen, and they're not, if they've got a lumbar cushion or a backrest, they're not actually touching it. So it doesn't really help anyway. These kind of old school methods, they're often just not used properly.
Yeah, no, it's very good point there. So, I mean, we see all sorts of things from, the chairs and pillows and what are the common ones that people do. So, those are the common ones. I see old school habits. So, what else do we see? Yeah,
let me just interrupt you.
Yeah.
Something that always amazes me, when you get your first day in your new office, you're shown to your desk, okay, and you get a standard desk, 72 centimeters high. That's the desk you're given, whether you're 6'6" tall or 5'2" tall. And it's crazy. So we're just given a height desk, as in one size fits all, but that's not really the case. That doesn't help at all. You get people cramming their knees, because if they've got great long legs, cramming their knees under a tiny little desk, or short people can hardly reach. It just seems a bit of a shame, really.
Yes, difficult, isn't it?
Common sense thing, but it's been that way for years.
Very difficult, very difficult. So that's great. So those are some of the old school solutions that people use to change sitting habits and posture. What would you say some of the newer innovations in chair design and workplace environment have been over the last kind of 5 years or so? Because I know the amount that we sit for has increased, the amount of kind of screen time, the amount of computer usage during the office time because of the mechanization and automation of projects and people's workplaces really led to them being more computer facing a lot of the time, despite us trying to automate the workplace. We're actually spending a lot more time at the computer. So what kind of new innovations have you seen in the workplace, and what solutions do you have that you said you import stuff? So let's start with the new innovations. So what do you see in terms of new innovations in the workplace?
Right. Yeah, well, there's one which I kind of like, which has got nothing to do with chairs, not even anything to do with desks. It's kind of a computer software thing, and you can get various different things for this. And some of them are just very simple. It'll be like a little alarm that will go off every, I don't know, however often you set it, every 20 minutes or half an hour or an hour. Ding, get up, walk around the office. Don't sit there for any more time. So a very simple, just kind of reminder to keep moving. So don't sit there for 8 hours without moving. So that's a very simple thing. And I guess you could have an alarm clock for that or anything like that.
Yeah,
so that's
iPhone works pretty well.
With chairs.
Or your Android.
Another thing which has become quite, yeah, it really does. Yeah. Get up and go and have a coffee, or go and chat to your neighbour, whatever it might be. Another thing which has happened quite a lot. I don't know if any people can remember these kneeling chairs. So when I was at university,
yeah, the balance, they're called balance chairs, aren't they?
Popular, and they not all of them. Chairs that you actually kneel on, so you've got support on your knees, and the big thing about that is that your knees are below your hips. Now, I don't think kneeling chairs are quite so popular now, although some people certainly.
What kind of problems do you see with people with kneeling chairs?
If you have your knees below your hips. Say that again.
What kind of problems do you see with people with kneeling chairs?
Well, so the knees are below the hips, which is good. But if you've ever seen anyone kind of sit on a kneeling chair, you kind of have to climb into it. It's just not simple to get up and off a kneeling chair. It's more of an effort. So if it's more of an effort to get up, you'll probably stay there for longer. And the other thing about them is they're very often quite static. So you're sitting completely still. You might have your knees below hips, which is a good thing, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a moment. But you tend to be still. That's not such a good thing. And also, because they're hard to get out of, you tend to stay in your chair. But yeah, some people do like them. There was a time, probably, I don't know, I guess 30 years ago, where they seem to be everywhere.
Excellent. So is there an optimal angle that you feel that the spine and the femur should be in relation to each other? What's the angle that people are looking for?
Okay, right. So I think if you read some of the literature, you can find a very specific angle. But all I say to customers is have your knees below your hips and be comfy and happy. I think you can kind of over kind of interpret these things a little bit much. But what I will say is there's a great photo of I've seen it on the internet, and I've used it in a couple of presentations, of an astronaut sleeping in weightless space. And so he's kind of at his most comfortable and relaxed, and the angle that his knees make with his hips is kind of what I've got now, but his knees are very much below his hips when he's at his most relaxed. So,
yeah.
So to sum up, I don't say a specific angle. I say knees below your hips and be comfy. What do you do if people ask about where to have their knees?
Yeah, so when I was taught about ergonomics, we always tend to refer back to this 135-degree angle. So it's not quite it's not quite 45 degrees from the vertical, but it's just shy of, well, it's just a bit greater than 45 degrees from the vertical. So it's about 135 degrees is what the literature states, I believe. But I think knees below hips is a general good guide.
The absolute worst thing you can do is if when you get to middle age like us, Stephen, and you're a bit younger than me, all right? So maybe like me, you have a midlife crisis and go and buy yourself a sports car with a bucket seat, right? And your knee is above your hip very often in these cars, these seats. So they look lovely, but they're uncomfortable. And I think very often before long you'll be in pain.
Yeah. But the reason understood is it's actually a bit of a safety mechanism that's built into the car, because if you were to have a crash in a high-speed car, because the seat's slightly declined, you'd actually push against the seat, so it would slow down your acceleration. So it's actually a bit of a safety feature in a car, especially these kind of bucket seats and things in sports cars, to help stop you dying. So it's quite important.
Okay. Well, maybe the thing to do is just drive a bit more slowly then.
Yeah, exactly. Let's drive slowly. That would help. So Mike, what are the options are there for people? Because I know you have this backup chair that you have, and you're carrying it down the street as well. But why is that so good? Why do you like that chair, and why do you recommend it to people?
Okay, so just mention saddle seats for a moment before the backup. So the saddle seat, when you sit on a saddle seat, you just by definition pretty much have your knee below your hips, which is sort of what we're aiming for. When you have your knee below your hips, like I don't know if people can see me in the position I'm in, but what that actually does is it makes it much easier to sit in a good posture. The muscles in your back work much less hard to hold you up. So this saddle posture really does help a lot. But when I came across the backup chair, the reason I liked it, apart from the fact that you sit in this posture, is that it also moves. Now, if people are used to sitting down, that are listening, and most people have done this. If you sit down, it could be just 20 minutes, certainly half an hour or an hour, and you're still. When you get up, you have that horrible kind of stiff feeling, and it's just there's nothing quite like it, or more nasty than that, just hideous stiff feeling. Yeah. So it keeps you moving, and that does two things. It stops this horrible stiff feeling, but also the muscles that you use to balance. So sometimes people call them the core muscles. I just tend to use them the muscles you use to balance, because if I call them the core muscles, people like Stephen will say, oh, so what muscles are they? And so I'm not a physio or an osteopath or anything like that, so I can't name the core muscles. So I just cop out and say the muscles you use to balance. They get a little bit of an exercise. They get used. If you sit completely still, these muscles just kind of disappear. So when you're sitting on a chair that moves, these muscles that you need to balance actually get used, and these are the muscles that support your back. So if you like, the strap line is get a stronger back through sitting. Yeah,
it's good strap line. Excellent. So Mike, how can
I can show you?
Yeah, sorry, you want to show the backup?
Yeah, so the way the thing moves, if you can bear with me, I'll just stand up and show you the rest of the chair. So the chair sits on this little red ball, which you can see there, and you can move that ball a little bit further out. So if I do that, the chair will move more. And you sit on the seat with your feet on the ring. So what that means, if your feet are on the ring, so my feet are on the ring, so I'm going to move. If you have your feet on the floor, you then move if you want to or you remember to. So some people sit on gym balls, which are quite good fun. You can play football with them in the office, which is always a good thing. But your feet are on the floor. So if your feet are on the floor, you tend to move if you remember to or you want to. With your feet on this back at ring, you will move whatever. So it's two things, and it's delightfully simple. It's posture and motion.
That's fantastic. Good. So it's a good chair, and got good reviews.
Great reviews. People absolutely love it. Now, if you bear with me, I want to show you. Backup have recently introduced another chair, which works in exactly the same way. I'm going to show you, but it's just a little simpler, and it has a plastic seat rather than this padded seat. And I've just started bringing those in. And something that I think is worth mentioning about it, as people start to think about returning to the office, it's worth remembering that this chair with the plastic seat, I hold it up so you can see it, it's dead easy to clean or sanitize. So I think some people might find that useful when they're worrying about keeping their staff safe and cleaning down areas, workstation areas, to have a very simple chair that's easy to clean. It wasn't why it was designed like that. It's just, I was going to say happy coincidence. I'm not sure that's quite right, because nothing about COVID is happy. But it's just the fact that it's easy to clean. It's kind of works in exactly the same way.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Good. So that's good news all around. Then brilliant. So, Mike, if people want to find out more information about the chair, how would they get hold of you?
Okay, so there's two things they can do. They can look at my website, which is relaxbackuk.com.
Right.
And they can contact me via the website as well. And there's some videos they can watch, all that sort of thing. Or they can send me an email, which is mike@relaxbackuk.com. And I'm very keen that people try these chairs out before they buy them. Now, that's a little bit harder to do at the minute under COVID, but I'm quite resourceful, and I can usually find a way of making that happen. So please, people that are watching, do remember that, because I really do try and make that happen.
Brilliant, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Mike. It's been really informative, and it's been great catching up with you and talking to you again. So for those of you that missed the start, or you've watched all the way through to the end,
Steve, can I?
Yes, Mike, you may.
Yeah, I wanted to say one more thing, and I also have a podcast called the Relax Back UK Show on UK Health Radio, and some of your patients may well find this useful, because I've been chatting to members of staff at Perfect Balance about what they do, and you can get a really good idea of everything that Perfect Balance has to offer. I talk about lots of other things as well, not just the Perfect Balance Clinic, but if people are kind of interested in all topics health and want to find out a little bit more about Perfect Balance and all the different things they can do for you, the podcast might be helpful.
Brilliant, nice plug there, Mike. Nice plug. So yeah, we'll put, Mike, if you could put the details of your podcast in the description box below, then people can have a look at that and get hold of that once it's live on Facebook, and then hopefully they can enjoy and get the most of the team speaking to you and any other things that you're talking about.
Excellent. All right. Brilliant. And well, thank you. It was a pleasure to chat with you.
Good. No problems at all. Well, thank you very much, Mike. And hopefully we'll see you again in the future. And good luck with the rest of the home working. So I know you've been working hard at home as well, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. I'm into the home working.
Excellent. Good. Well, listen, if you've been watching live on Facebook, it's been a pleasure to serve you, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Mike, thank you very much for your time, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon as well. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.